Hey guys! In today's tutorial I will show you how to permanently hex patch your SNES ROM using a cheat code so that you no longer have to use the cheat code in the emulator. If you've used cheat codes before, you're probably aware that the two most common types of cheat codes are Pro Action Replay, abbreviated PAR, also known as Standard, and Game Genie. The PAR format cheat code is usually the same exact hex offset you need to patch your ROM within a hex editor. The problem is that depending on the PAR cheat code, it is very common to encounter this error. The file does not contain this offset. This means that the offset is outside the ROM's range. This usually happens with PAR cheat codes because they typically begin with a high letter or number rendering the offset outside the ROM's range. The reason is these cheat codes are obtained using a basic or beginner's method in the emulator, and the emulator has the ability to modify the game's RAM, random access memory, and not ROM. This is temporary, so to speak, and thus requires the cheat code to always be applied or activated, whereas a permanent modification, also known as hex patching, can only be performed on the game's ROM, read-only memory. For a PAR cheat code beginning with DE, for example, you can simply replace the letter D with a 1 and you are all set. But if it begins with 7E or 7F, then you are out of luck, and the only solution is to use a Game Genie cheat code because its hex offset is almost always in the ROM's range. A Game Genie cheat code consists of 8 characters, and in order to get the hex offset you can very easily convert the code using the Game Genie Good Guys converter, an awesome little tool which gives you the permanent hex offset you need to patch. In many cases you will still get the out-of-range error, but all you have to do is ignore the first letter or number and the correct offset will surely be found. Creating a cheat code using the beginner's method, which is searching, then taking damage to decrease your health, then searching again, etc., usually results in a PAR cheat code. But acquiring a Game Genie cheat code is a bit more advanced and requires a little more expertise because we will be utilizing breakpoints, tracing, logging, and a bit of understanding of assembly language instructions. Don't let these big terms intimidate you because the process is pretty simple, and I'll be simplifying it even more for you as we progress. So let's take this World Heroes Infinite Health cheat code for example from gamehacking.org. This is a Pro Action Replay cheat code, and as you can see it begins with 7E. This is the code that you will achieve if you use the beginner's method, and again you will not be able to find the offset in the ROM to patch it. Now let's take a look at this Game Genie cheat code. If we drop the C from this offset, it will be found, and if we patch it with 24 we will get infinite health. This is the same offset that the Game Genie Good Guys converter will yield if we input those 8 characters into it. The process is also reversible. If I input the hex offset and value, it will give me the 8 characters for the Game Genie cheat code. But how did the contributor arrive at this offset? Grab a coffee and strap in and let me show you how it's done. In order to find a Game Genie cheat code or permanent hex offset you need to use a breakpoint. A breakpoint does exactly that. It causes a break or interruption when the value you want to hack is going to change. Therefore it is very useful to have that 7E107B Pro Action Replay cheat code, because we can use it as our breakpoint for the health value. If you don't already know how to obtain the beginner's PAR cheat code and are interested in learning how to do so, please use the link in the description to watch that tutorial. I recommend learning that method first because it's just the sequential and logical thing to do, but you're more than welcome to skip it and confuse the hell out of yourself. Imagine skipping learning horseback riding and going straight to horse racing. That was a joke. Okay, back to the topic at hand. I will be using SNES Geiger Emulator because it has a nice little debug console which provides the breakpoint, tracing, and logging tools we need. When working on infinite health cheat codes, it's advisable to make the time infinite from the game options if you can, because you don't want the fight to be over before you've accomplished what you need. Also, whatever you can do to slow down your opponent, such as using the lowest difficulty, will make your task easier. You don't want him attacking you at the wrong time and disrupting the process. It just makes things easier when you are in control of taking damage. I've incorporated a special cheat as a hex patch that makes my opponent motionless. This kills his movement, so he won't move or mess with me unless I mess with or attack him. Sorry you can't have this cheat. Just kidding. I will also use a death/fatal match because it has things such as fire and other fatal objects that I can use to reduce my health when I need to do so. If you don't have those luxuries, it's still doable, just a bit harder. Sucks to be you, huh? Alright, we are all set up. Let's click on breakpoints and enter that 7E107B par cheat code and tick right. Next, we want to enable CPU logging. Tracing should already be enabled by default, so we need not worry about it. Before we enable CPU logging, we need to slow down the game because the more frames per second we have, the larger our generated log file will be. We want our log file to contain the information we need while being the smallest size possible so that we don't spend too much time reading it. To slow down the game, simply pause the game and press down on the Shift button on your keyboard as well as the button with the slash and plus sign on it. There should also be another button with a slash on it. You can use those two buttons to toggle the speed from slowest to fastest. I'm going to go with 35 milliseconds because I want to slow it down, but I also don't want it to be painfully slow that my beard grows before I get my cheat code. Next, I'm going to position Bruce Lee next to the wall so that I can reduce his health once I've activated CPU logging. Now I will enable CPU logging and reduce his health by impaling him on that wall. Ouch! That's gotta hurt. Sorry, Bruce Lee. But I chose you 'cause you're the best. Then once he falls down, I will deselect CPU logging to stop the logging. The generated log file will be created in the same directory as your ROM. I recommend using Notepad++ because it allows for smoother viewing and searching of files. This part may vary depending on the game, but I think it's safe to say that the basic principle and guideline will apply most of the time. If you're lucky. A lot. Kidding. More times than not, an assembly language instruction known as STA, which is short for storing a value, when joined with another function will govern what happens to your health bar. If you've done the tracing and logging correctly with the proper frames per second, this combination shouldn't occur more than 5 or 6 times in a file of this size. This means you should only need to test 5 or 6 times in order to find the correct offset. In exploring this file, we can see that a combination of BPL and STA occurs 5 or 6 times. The first one happens to be the correct one. But wait. How did I know to look for BPL? Well, this is where some basic knowledge of assembly language will come in handy. BPL means branch on plus. Whoa. English please. This means that after a subtraction or negativity occurs, as soon as it's no longer occurring, even if it has taken a nanosecond pause, the computer is told to branch away or jump and then perform an STA to store the new health value. And on your screen this is reflected as a change in the color of your health bar. Changing that STA instruction disrupts the logical flow of events and prevents that subtraction or negativity from occurring, rendering your health bar frozen. Neat, huh? This $C0/46B7 is our offset. We will of course ignore the $C0/ and only use the 46B7. Do you recall the Game Genie code and its hex offset from the game hacking site? It's the same exact one. So congratulations. You have figured out how that offset was discovered. As far as that 24 value is concerned, it's hard to explain to you why that value in particular was chosen without an understanding of assembly language instructions. But in very simple terms, it instructs the game to bypass the subtraction before it takes place, and just stores your health value as it is, hence freezing your health bar as previously mentioned. But don't stress too much over it because several other values such as FF will work as well. So with a bit of trial and error you can get it working without being assembly language savvy. I hope this tutorial has in one way or another helped you learn something new and apply it to your desired game. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.